Are you trying to be of service? Or are you actually defining yourself as a service?
Look, this is how we should have started this podcast. It might have been a killer. People would be hooked into listening, and you're meanly giving the best advice at the end. 50
Well, I
minutes
just,
you must go through Crocodile Dundee information until we're bringing the good stuff.
just making sure people are going to earn it.
Hello and welcome for Marketing for Healers. Not getting it wrong. Now, third time is a charm. Hello and welcome to Marketing for Healers, podcast that's part of the Spiritual Podcast series. And from Australia, Luke Deighton is here with me. Hello, Luke.
Hey, Philipp, how are you, mate? Thanks for having me on.
Great. All right. Always technical difficulties on the start makes a podcast spicy.
Absolutely.
Now, I wanted to start this podcast with a very smart observation, but the last days it dawned on me that every time I have a private conversation with my spiritual guests, all they want to talk about is marketing. And every time I have a private conversation with my marketing guests, all they want to talk about is their path and enlightenment and the way forward. So if there was ever a yin-yang thing going on, and it's...
Yeah, hopefully we can try and find the middle ground for you guys.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Let's make a small introduction about you and your background and where you do, and then maybe let's talk a little bit about the wonderful life that you have chosen to live right now before we jump into the deep end of very clever marketing strategies and stuff like that you have to offer and that you know so much about.
Yeah, awesome. So for us, my journey in the marketing space and the business space started probably 10 years ago now. My sister and I decided to start building an online intuitive development school together, and I took over the marketing aspects of that. And that's been a wicked journey of like a lot of internal reflection, a lot of internal growth, getting more sense of purpose, really aligning where my energy was going. For a long time, I lived sort of 2 feet in both worlds of the spiritual world and the 3D reality, if we want to label it as that. And in the mining industry, I was a mining supervisor and going up the corporate ladder there and the corporate pathway. And about 4.5 years ago, we started to really question what were we doing in the world? What are we trying to create? What's the life that we want to bring our children up to? And that led us to really going down on what are our core skills, what's our wisdom, and how can we bring that out into the world. So coupled all of that in with the marketing and coaching and the leadership and the not-for-profit stuff we do. And now we're traveling around Australia, sharing our brands, building our brands up and trying to impact the world and create a better world for our kids.
That is so interesting that so many of the people who are into spiritual marketing or specialized in marketing for... I hope you're not watching for something dangerous. I know you're in the Australian outland, so I'm like, every time you twist your head, I see all kind of venomous creatures coming towards you in my mind.
No, we're in an
I mean, I
enclosed
know that you're
enclosure. We're in a fenced off area, thankfully, but no, the kids are just, at least lost one of the boys. So I was just trying to see if I could see her frantically walking around. So we pulled up in a park for the day to try and get the podcast done, escape the crappy weather here.
I kind of see you in one hand dealing a crocodile, totally relaxed, and the other one would be here making the podcast like, it's nothing made, it's just a croc.
Yeah, that's it. If you see me doing these ones, I'm just holding something at
Oh God, how we foreigners think Australia looks like.
Yeah, I've had a few people reach out and say like, geez, that's crazy. Doesn't everything try and kill you there? And yes, it does in some respects. There's a lot of good stuff too.
I heard it's mainly the women. Some famous professor,
Yeah, look,
an expert.
yeah. I may have forgotten my partner's birthday the other day, so I was in that dangerous zone of a woman that wanted to kill me.
All right. Okay. We're drifting off, which is nice. But people were like, I want to sell my products. Well, and heard they're talking. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. Just hang in there. Tons of good knowledge is coming your way. But the interesting part is this is now the second or third conversation I'm having in this series, and each of the people who I invite or who reach out to me, who let it happening, who want to marketize or want to help spiritual coaches and people in the spiritual industry to sell and market their product, they really have knowledge on their own. Is it in spiritual transformation or as therapists or things like that? So they really know their stuff. And you pointed out that you did a project with your sister. Can you give us a couple of minutes of some of these projects so people understand when you talk from experience?
Yeah, absolutely. The Genius Portal is the online intuitive development school that my sister and I created, and she was very much the visionary behind that. I was the structure and the logic and that masculine energy of bringing that into the world, and that tackles more of the hermetic principles of alchemy, how to turn lead into gold, those kind of things from a life perspective. So we have a number of different courses and programs within that structure that cover off on different elements. So our gold element is a business mastermind. Our sensuality is the fire symbol, which is called sensual essence, which is all about embodiment and sensuality. Then we have alchemy of the water and the healing. So the embodiment of healing, becoming your own greatest healer, which is the water element. And then we bounce around in some cool spaces in the salt and the unseen world as well, in the astral projection space, the ritualistic way of life as well. Our background and our heritage is Celtic. And so we live very ritualistically in that way from a pagan world years type of trying to be a lot more connected to nature. I love the natural wisdom of the Celtic world. That's in that space of really living in a way that's connected to nature. And so that was where I got started in the marketing space, and I got started in just the business development space. I now have my own coaching brand, which is all around helping conscious leaders to really bridge the gap between those two worlds, bridging the gap between the spirituality and the embodiment from an energetical and a spiritual element, and then bringing in the structure, the process, the systems that work within 3D reality. Because for me, a lot of people get lost in the 5D and higher, and it's often that we need to just back, grab back into how to be that version of ourselves that can actually help where people need the help, which is here in the 3D realities. That's my coaching element now, and I've been doing that for a number of years. We also own cacao brands, so I do cacao facilitations and ceremonies in that space. We do a lot of caffeine addiction work and help people create an empowered beverage relationship. So from a plant medicine point of view, that's my connection in that space. And then I'm also on the board of a non-for-profit men's organization. So currently traveling the country and obviously sharing all of those projects and run facilitations, retreats, and those kind of things as well in the men's space.
Also got a lot of time on your free time on your hand.
Not free time. I'm very busy. You throw in two kids and a partner, but one of our mantras is, I think what's important for me has been really aligning the output of my energy in the spaces of what I would love to receive back. And I think that's a space where a lot of people get stuck on, and giving out energy in spaces that don't necessarily align with where they want to go. And so for us, since we've started aligning the output of our energy in those spaces that are true for us, we have all the time in the world. We have all the time in the world to do all the things that we love to do when it comes to being present parents, when it comes to being present in our relationship, when it comes to being present in our businesses and in our life. Then once you can remove some of the distractions, then all of a sudden you've got plenty of time.
That's an interesting point. If you remove the distractions, you got plenty of time. I think here's like a
Mm.
headline, if I ever heard one. So, so one of the things, let's go before people getting nervous. So, so one of the things that you are so keen about, or also I've heard you saying it so many times, it's an alignment thing. As you said, spirit healers are usually good in healing and coming up with all of this, and that they know that they sometimes lack the structure and the conceptual thing and CEO, what is not, and marketing strategy and all of that. But I think you come to the point that there's something in between even that, something in between even the marketing strategy and the Instagram tools and whatnot. And there is something in between. And if that's not done right, then the message not right. Is that's what we're getting at now?
Yeah, absolutely. It all starts with understanding. For me, it all starts like marketing everything from a business model. Like we have a trademarked expansion business model, and it all starts with what's the vision, what's the values and the standards that you want that business to operate in? What's the values and the standards that you as an individual want to operate in? Because it's all identity and embodiment. You can't, that's where social media has probably become, it's a great tool, obviously, as well, but it's also created this perception that you have to be a certain way. And a lot of people show up in a way on social media and don't necessarily show up in that way in their life. And that leads to a lot of misalignment. It leads to a lot of conflict. It leads to a lot of problems within people's lives. And so our big message is try and find that alignment, come from a place of truth. What's that like for you? And then work backwards from there. Because once you have that vision, and you have that starting point and you reverse engineer it back, that is how you create your marketing plans. That is how you create your messaging. That is how you create your niche offer. All of those things stem from, in my opinion, from the vision. And when you can embody the person, and where you were talking about before, like that middle ground for me is that embodiment of not the person that you were when you started your healing journey, because a very different person to the person that you need to embody, or the identity you need to embody in order to grow your business and to be a service to other people.
Will you take us a little bit step by step? How would be if I would be a new client, if I would like get the first hello and said, I've got that thing going on, but most probably I will tell you I don't have enough bookings, I don't have this, I don't have that. Can you a little bit take us through what would be your a bit of a structural thing so people can understand what they're supposed to expect?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, we get clear on the vision. So I generally ask people to write down where they want to be in 10 years' time and what they think they want to create. And then we guide them in a meditation to do the same thing, but from a what they would love to create. And generally we find that they're very similar in a lot of respects, but there might be slightly different theme. And those themes then give us an insight into, okay, what do we, what parts of ourselves think that we want to create this and why? And what does that look like? It gives us a little bit of an insight into some of the identity stuff and those limiting beliefs and those sorts of things that we might want to dive into and have a look at. But then from there, we would reverse engineer it back. So what does that look like? For me, I'm very holistic in my approach. So when I talk 10-year vision, I'm looking at not just as an individual, but where do I want to be from a family point of view, a career point of view, a community point of view, a health, a wellness? What does that look like? Okay. Now that I have that, what are the values and the standards that I want to live by? Cool. Now I've got that. Now I reverse engineer it back. So what's that look like in 5 years? What's that look like in 3 years? What's that look like in 1 year? What's that look like in 3 months? That look like on the week to week, day to day? All right, cool. What are the actions that I need to take towards that? And then when we talked about distractions before, from there, you can really clearly see, okay, why am I doing this in my normal day to day life if that's not taking me towards that vision? That's a distraction. Okay, why am I doing that? And then we can start to get into the individualized sort of body work or embodiment work or whatever healing aspects that we need to bring in that space, whether it's generational trauma, whether it's inner child work, whether it's just energetics. We can sort of bring that in from there. But we always start with a vision. So when people come to me and say, I've got a problem with generating leads, and first and foremost, I want to get clear on the vision, because if subconsciously you're not actually bringing in leads that match what you would love to work with or who you would love to work with, you're going to block yourself and you're not going to show up fully in that space. And so if we can get clear first and foremost on where we're going, then we can start to impact on those things that are like leads, sales. At the end of the day, it's my belief that any blocks within our business are a direct restriction in the flow of our own energy. You know, if we're a conduit of energy and we're bringing that back out into the world, then anything that's going on in my business or in my life that I'm not happy with is a reflection of something internal. And so when we have that awareness, then we can dive into that and shift those blocks. A lot of times for the people that I work with, which are high achieving business owners and high level people, that's often not a fear of failure. It's often a fear of success. There's usually a part of them that doesn't want to be seen at that level, or that doesn't understand what's required to get to the next stage. And so we just start to dive into that and see where it takes us.
I, I think this is the most clear vision I've heard in a very long time. I mean in a long time. Because I immediately in my head, because you don't know that, but I'm a multi-business founder. So I always had a spiritual side in my life. I'm teaching meditation for more than 30 years, but that's basically one sideline. The other sideline, I've built many, many, many companies, many startup companies, and bigger ones, smaller ones, all kind of companies. And I've worked with many people. And I do sometimes also consulting for other companies. So and I also work and I also work in the marketing industry more than 30 years plus as well. So I think I've been around the bush, and this is the most clear vision I've heard in really, really long time. I have to tell you, you're spot on that if this alignment, if the goals and the goal structures do not align with the actions, then there is somehow a bug in the system right from the start. And while we storm ahead and trying to post things, trying to marketing, maybe agencies or making videos or doing things or giving messages. But when the initial motivation and the initial alignment is not in tune, all of this somehow doesn't have the punch that it ought to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very easy to then create something that you get 5 years into and you go, "This isn't what I wanted. You know, this is what I thought I was gonna create." And I see that a lot all the time. A lot of people that do incredible things in the world and then still don't have that level of fulfillment. And so for me, it's connect to that place first and foremost and then build from there. And I think a lot of the processes, a lot of the tools, the techniques are very similar in their structure, right? From a marketing perspective, if we're talking marketing. But what's important is where's it coming from for me? Where's that core belief? Where's that core drive? Where's that core energy coming from? And life's very simple. We tend to, as humans, I think, like to overcomplicate things for egoic reasons. But for me, it's very simple. Have a vision, take steps towards it. When you take a step away from it, just dive into the why. What part of me is pulling me in the other direction? And the more that you do that, the more incredible your life's going to shape itself around you. Like the biggest creators in the planet all talk about intuition. They all talk about creating at a higher level. They don't have it. In my opinion, they don't have a magic wand. It's not like they snap their fingers and things happen. They just spend more time. They just have good structures and systems that keep them in alignment with where they want to go versus out of alignment. So it feels like they get there very quickly. But in reality, it's just because for the average person, we spend so much time in our resistance, whether that's thinking about what someone else is thinking about us or doing things for other people pleasing, overgiving, oversharing, whatever it is. We spend so much time outside of where we would actually love to be that it takes us so long to get there. And then for a lot of people, they hit a resistance and or that starts to take too long and then they go back to comfortability. They go back to what they're being told they should do based on what others tell them.
It's very interesting to have a real world example, because so many people who's starting any company or any business, when I meet them or they tell me they're planning to do this, they're planning to do that, I said, well, first meeting that you have is with a really good accountant. I said, but I'm not there yet. I know I don't create any income, this, that, I will set. I said, no, 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 no. A good accountant, before you even register your business, can save you the biggest money that you will ever save in your life by advising you what maybe be a better business structure, or should, be limited, should it be this and that. This is when you get this foundation right, then whatever you do later, it's like, the biggest money you will ever save is before you start opening your company. So it sounds a bit like that, because I want to try to create an information here with you so that people who are starting on the spiritual journey not think like, oh, if I'm already accomplished or cannot go to the next level, this is when I contact you. Or when I'm already like accomplished and now I want to become a megastar, this is when I contact you. This is like advanced stuff. I already must have made a lot of money, so I can invest in you to maybe make more money. So to me, it sounds much more like that. If you would be really like taking your first step, even thinking, I want to, now quit my job and start a spiritual career, it to me sounds like that we should make it clear to people that you should be like that accountant. You should be the first person to call, in my understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. I think whether it's me or someone else that can get you tapped into your vision, for me, it's no point just winging it. I think where a lot of people go wrong in the spirituality space is that they think they can just put their hand up in the air and the universe is going to take them for a ride, and just take them to the promised land. And a lot of people get stuck in that. And they also have that belief around that money is bad, that money is going to corrupt, money is evil, we have all of those conditionings from a young age, which steer us away from getting in touch with our finances. There's a massive belief within spiritual spaces that you can't have spiritual wealth and financial wealth. And to me, that's a load of crap, right? Like if we're here to experience everything and we're here to experience everything that we are to offer the world, then that's going to have a level of abundance to it. And so we have to embrace that. And we have to be able to have that structure right. And you're dead right. It's the foundations of which you build your business or which you build yourself off that are so important. If we start talking about, I like to explain it like that our growth towards our vision is a ladder and that each step has a level of expansion and resistance with it. And before you take another step, there'll be a level of resistance that you have to work through. And if you choose not to work through that, and that may be that you need to understand your finances better, that need to have a better relationship with money, or that you need to stand in your truth more and not have boundaries that get stepped over all the time. Whatever that is, if we take that step, then we'll stay on that path to the vision. For me, there's a 100% truth of what we're creating, and that is the fact, and that is the purpose, and that is just is. Anything to the side of that is just born from a shadow where at one of those steps in the resistance ladder, we've just chosen not to learn that lesson. And so we bypass it. And this is where spiritual bypassing comes in. We bypass it and then we keep creating. And so we'll still get somewhere close to the vision, but it won't be the 100% full vision because we haven't learned that lesson. And so I think it's really important to learn those lessons at the start, whatever those resistances are for you, whether that's your financial resistance, whether that's understanding why you don't necessarily want to be on camera or start doing the social media stuff and putting yourself out there, understanding those things at the very entry level so that you can be connected to where you're going in an aligned way so that you don't get 3 years in and go, oh man, I've created something that I didn't actually want to create.
That's for sure. Do you actually have maybe some real world examples to share a little bit? Is there something that comes to your mind of your clients where you think you can a little bit demonstrate these shifts? Is that something that comes to mind?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a client in the last year or two that came to me and she was just starting out on really going into the coaching space. Few clients here and there, not really aligned with where she was going and saying that she wanted to do this and this. And I was like, cool, let's just break it down and let's step in and see what's true for you. She was a women's empowerment coach, and it turns out that what she would have loved was to work with men. And so now she's a men's empowerment coach. She's doing 20K days. She's absolutely killing it and smashing it, feeling full life. That's a slight. She's still a coach. She's still doing all these things, but that slight shift in who she's serving from a place of truth. And now the beauty of this is, and one of the tools that I recommend people do is reflect on these visions. So for me, every 6 months, I sit back down with my vision and I go, is that still where I'm going? Is that still where I would love to go? Because we're all growing. We all grow. And so in a year's time, this coach may come back and go, cool, I've done my part in this men's space now and I feel really complete here. Now I'm going to branch back out, whatever it is, whatever's true at the time. But we don't have to, we don't have to cling to who we are. We don't have to limit our growth because we're all in the journey and we're all growing. And so that's that part of the process. I think that's so important is that reflection and that constant check-in and that permission that we give ourselves to be able to shift and move. And because sometimes we make decisions with the best information that we have at the time. And as we grow and as we receive new opportunities, new awareness comes in. And so we get more information to get more specific with that vision, so to speak. For anyone out there that is like working towards a vision and starting to feel that something's shifting, don't ignore it because if that's coming from a place of awareness that you've been granted, then, make that shift. But that's probably a good example of just a slight shift that you can make in that alignment piece that can really just change the course of someone's business and someone's life.
how many sessions do you usually, or how long it usually takes? Because now the more practical question, is this like a 3-year program, or is this like just a couple of conversations? What is sort of regular approach to like that woman, for example?
So that woman's been with me for a year and a bit now. She just signed on for another year. So typically I do a 12-month journey when it comes to a business creation. I want to be invested. I want to make sure there's a lot of 3-month stuff. When I was in the marketing space, I did 3-month like packages. And for me, it doesn't really align from a business point of view. If I'm working on someone from an individual level, we're talking about transformation individual. You could be in a resistance phase or in a spot for like a month or two, like working through it. And for me as a coach, I don't really see myself as giving answers. I just like to guide people to the answers within themselves. And sometimes that takes a little bit more time to facilitate and get to, and you have to learn that lesson a couple of times. I know in my experience, I had to learn many lessons multiple times, even if someone had told me, like, you know, someone had told that exact thing like 3 years ago until I actually experienced it myself, that didn't actually click. So for me, I do 12-month journeys in the business space, in the like that aspect. We do a 10-week program for just an individual level, which is a group mastermind where people can dive into some of the modalities and the principles that I've used to unlock more of myself. We cover a lot of stuff across creative development. We cover values and standards, visions, some of the entry level things in regards to quantum mechanics and quantum physics, plant medicines, masculine and feminine dynamics, and really just bring a lot of different things into awareness for people so that they can start that journey. That's usually a great entry point, and then from there, we step up into either the group coaching or the one-to-one containers. I also do corporate,
Group coaching is, and this one-to-ones like once a week, or like how much she needs it? Is this like a all-in package,
yeah,
or is it like a daily call, or how do I see this?
yeah, so the one-to-one stuff is a fortnightly call, 24/7 chat support, so I'm usually in meetings doing those sorts of things with these some of the higher level people that I'm working with that are building companies and building teams and those sorts of things. I attend meetings and support them in their growth in that space. But we do the fortnightly sessions. We also have they get access to all of the group mastermind stuff that we do, so there's 2 calls per week in there. So a lot of contact points, 24/7 support if they need it via WhatsApp, and lots of opportunities to be in that space. And if we need to have extra meetings to support them through something, then we do that. I have many a time where if someone's working on something and we need to brainstorm and it's not quite getting over the line and a voice note, then we'll jump on a call. At the end of the day, it's whatever's going to serve that person to get to where they want to get to, and we'll do what we have to do in that space.
That sounds that sounds amazing. Let's just make a now. Let's the information suck in with people, and we can chat for like 4 to 5 minutes. Because you're living, just tell us about living in a caravan in Australian outland. Just a little bit. Just give us a small couple of minutes
Yeah,
of
cool, man.
relaxation.
Yeah, awesome. It's incredible. We're really settling into it now. There was a little bit of probably 3 weeks ago, there was like it sort of landed with the gravity of what we're trying to build and what we're trying to do because it's a part of our sort of 10-year plan. So we had phase 1, which is very foundational, and phase 2 was, well, how do we continue to grow and reach more people and really impact at a grassroots level across all the different brands? And it was like, well, let's sell up and get on the road and go and have conversations with people and go and chat. And also got, the boys are nearly 4 and nearly 2, so a great opportunity to create some core memories with them, have some incredible experiences. It's been a bit of an adjustment going from a 5-acre property with a massive house to all in a caravan, so that's been a little bit of an adjustment from a space point of view, but we're definitely finding a groove. We're seeing some really cool things, and we're really blessed to be doing what we're doing, and we're extremely grateful that we get to live a life that so many people would love to live, and we get to lead in that way and hopefully inspire some more people to, whether it's pack up and go traveling or whether it's just to do more of what they would love to do without fear that usually comes with those big decisions. And if we can inspire a few more people to do that, then that's awesome too.
And the children, I mean, they're still young. There's no daycare. There's no schooling. So basically, that's like the perfect time to do it by the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And they're just living their best life. They're literally just out here on the playground at the moment, running around barefoot in the puddles
So,
and
so you you saw your son, so he's back in. Everything is
Yeah, they're
fine.
all good.
You're
Yeah,
in.
they're all
Okay,
good.
okay. I can see you're
Yeah.
relaxing. So
Yeah, no, they're all good. It's an enclosed park, which is nice, so it's good to be able to just relax in that space. It's a beautiful park. It's a big nature setup and very cool. We're in Lake Grace at the moment, which is one of the largest salt lakes in the Southern Hemisphere. So it's 26 Ks long or something like that. It's incredible body of water, very impressive. We've just come here for the day to explore and have a look around and see what the town has to offer.
so that's one of the things. One question before we go back into marketing. You talk a lot about female power, male power. I know that you do work with in a NGO. You said with empowering men and things like that. Just give us a couple of minutes, and also maybe have marketing in the back of your mind. If there's you so put male energy into the project, which is like, I mean, now Donald Trump is president, we can say these things out loud again. Like 6 months ago, the internet would just explode, and
Yeah.
how dare he talks about male energy coming into something. But apparently it's on vogue again. But nevertheless, just is would you think there is something like a female approach to marketing or a male approach to marketing, or that's bollocks, or just
Well, yeah. I think from an
go anywhere
energetical
you like
point.
to go?
Cool. Yeah, from an energetical point, 100%. So for me, I think what people get caught up on all the time is like thinking that masculine is man, and feminine is female. And when we're talking about energies, that we all have masculine and feminine within us. And so it's just about embodying which one and when and understanding what's the right energy to bring to a situation. If I'm going into a creativity phase, then generally a lot of my life structures shift around into more nurture, more gentle, more flow, more intuitive. And whereas if I'm in a gets it done phase, my masculine energy takes in the drive, the logic, the purpose all comes through. And so I think that's probably the first thing that people need to understand. And the best way that I explain that is if we break down from an etymological point of view, the actual word man, you can actually break that all the way down into the M stands for the masculine element of water, the A stands for the firstborn or the son of, and the N stands for the nun, which is the feminine aspect of water. And so even within the word man, it has both of those energies present. And I think that's what's important for me is that we can embody both of those energies. So for me, it's actually my feminine energy that allows me to tap into my vision because it's got a greater connection to source, to intuition, to creativity. So for me, in my opinion, if I'm not tapped into my feminine energy and have a good relationship with that, then I can't actually get into the vision properly. And so then my masculine energy can't actually do what it needs to do because it doesn't have a vision to lead us towards. And so for me, the feminine energy leads to the path and the masculine energy has to surrender to that to be led to that path. And then it switches. Then the masculine energy leads down that path and the feminine surrenders to the masculine to be led. And I've noticed this within my own relationships too. Often it's been the feminine in my life, whether it's been my sister, my partner, Elise, my mum, who have held me in my greatness and shown me the path and then given me the opportunity to lead down that path. And that's been very relevant in my life. And now from a marketing lens, if we're bringing it into marketing, understanding where our avatars sit. So this is what I like to do in my space is so understanding what my avatar energy typically embodies. So for a holistic achiever, often that means that they're either in a very feminine energy or they're in a very masculine energy. They're coming from a corporate background, they're likely in a very masculine energy, which means their mindset and their brain is going to want logic, it's going to want numbers, it's not going to want the spiritual aspect, it's going to want the holistic approach, it's going to want the how can this person help me get to here? And so I need to understand that from a marketing perspective. Whereas if someone's in a feminine energy or embodying more of a feminine nature, or even if we're playing into some of the psychological aspects from a neuroscience point of view, some of the like where their trauma sits or where their pain sits and their problems sit, understanding that and which energy to bring with that is very important too. So a more feminine energy isn't going to want someone driving down their throat. They're going to want an open invitation, a more nurturing energy in our messaging. So, for example, I guess across the different brands that I'm involved in, so Hybration Organics, which is our cacao brand, is very much about empowerment. It's very much about relationships and community. And so a lot of that content is softer. It invites reflection, but it's all around using the beverages to create a moment for ourselves within the storms and the chaos of life. So it's a very different energy versus my personal brand, which is still quite a grounded energy in the way in which I approach it, but I'm very much more authoritative in the way that I speak a lot of the time. It's very much, here's a structure, here's a system. This is how it's worked for me. Because those are the types of people that I'm trying to call in, those that have got logical systems and processes and need a little bit more support to take them to the next level from an energetical and a spiritual point of view. How do you align that and create in that space is a little bit more connected to their inherent nature? Again, depending on what season I'm in, so, from a marketing perspective, I also take into the seasons of like nature. So what season are we in from a energy point of view? So summer is a time from expression, expansion, for growth. Winter is a time for internal reflection. So if you're talking about launching a project that is all about be your best self, all of these things in the middle of winter, people aren't going to be ready for that. They're not looking for that at that time. And so the people that you bring in, you still probably will make sales, but the people you bring in won't actually be 100% in alignment. And that's generally for me where we have clients that are difficult and all of these sort of things come in. So for me, there's a lot of different things that go into structuring out the way in which we market. We look at that from an energetical, a spiritual, a seasonal point of view, and then align that in that aspect.
I again cannot say how much I agree with you on so many levels again, but there is definitely a time and a place. And if you try to do something out of place and time, it's 100 times harder or almost set up failure if you give the messages in the wrong context, in the wrong time. And I think everybody listening, even if that's the only thing that they might take from this conversation today, is to understand the masculine and feminine energy a bit better without any kind of sunglasses or some kind of whatever. Just look the way nature created and understand that there are clients who need a masculine information and there are clients who need a female information, and you're just losing out if you constantly putting your marketing out there and it's just in one specific area, and you do not just talk to the whole spectrum. If that's the only thing that people take from this conversation, and they miss the main part, the alignment, which I think a lot of people will think, well, I'm in alignment. That's, I think, a hard sell, because I can tell you that a lot of people will say, no, I know exactly what I want. I'm completely in alignment. Of course, I know what I want. And I can tell you from a lot of experience, they do not. They just don't know. So that's
Yeah.
maybe then the last question, or whatever you think should be at the ending of this podcast, how to make people aware of it, or is just life telling you, or is it just ended up with the concept of how would you help people listening now to kind of figure out, am I in alignment? And just to make it for them understandable, like a small mini test, like something that they can ask, do themselves at home right now, like, those 3 points, figure out, are you in alignment? Yes, no,
Yeah, absolutely.
click
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's how you feel. Like, are you feeling burnout? Are you feeling fatigue? Because for me, when you're in alignment, the beautiful thing about that phrase I said earlier around aligning the output of your energy within the inputs you wish to receive, for me, that's a direct lesson from nature and cultivating ecosystems. So one of our frameworks is cultivation of ecosystems.
Can I stop you? I know you're making a
Yep.
great speech, but I want to stop you because I now had it in my personal private space that a person was running for a very hard business time for like 2 years now. It was really tough. And getting up in the morning was like so hard. And, you know, it was so hard. And now the business shifted, and 5 o'clock, sitting with a coffee, watching the sunset. And I'm like, oh, what you're doing now. No, I couldn't sleep, I'm like full of this. I just had to stop you here to say, absolutely right. Well, sorry,
No, no, good. Oh, go for it.
go.
Go for it. Yeah. I think you're spot on. Like, it's a great add-in, like that alignment piece of you feel it. And for me, that comes from that ecosystem framework of if we think about nature, what's the number one rule in nature? If we're creating ecosystems, it's give back more than you receive. And so when we align that and we give in the areas that are connected to our inherent nature, the beautiful part about that for me is that those areas then also follow that same rule of giving back more than they receive. So the energy that I give to them, they then give me more back. And so it creates this beautiful energetic loop of exchange. So as soon as someone talks to me about, oh, I've got burnout or I'm not in the right energy, I'm fatigued, there's a misalignment. There's an energy drain going out that's not giving back the right. And so that's first and foremost. If we're feeling burnt out, we're feeling fatigued, those then for me, there's a misalignment issue. So it's looking at where you're putting the energy out within your life and what you're getting back in return and making sure that's actually aligned with the vision that you would love. So that's first and foremost. So if we can tackle that, then that's going to change a lot of things in that space. But also, like you said, too, it's easy to think that we're in alignment. It's easy to say all of these things to ourselves. And whenever we do that, the biggest the biggest insight into whether we're not in alignment or not when we're saying that is if we have to justify or reason. Justification and reason to me is the land of the shadow because there's only the truth, there is the fact. And so if you say I'm in alignment and someone challenges you on that and you're like, yep, no, I'm in alignment. Cool. You're in alignment for me. If you then start to justify that with I'm in alignment because of this and you're having to prove that, you're actually just trying to prove that to yourself. And that to me is another precursor to say that there's a misalignment in energy. And I see this a lot in the spiritual space as well, especially when it comes to, oh, I don't need this and I don't need that, or those kind of things. And spiritual bypassing, it's a big one in that space. And justification and reasoning is usually a great insight that there's something not quite aligned in going.
Because now I should not say this out loud, but when you spoke, I so much had a lot of religious movement in my.
Yeah.
I should not say that.
Or maybe give some more
And
context. Maybe give some more context.
no, I'm gonna edit it out.
No, and it's funny because I've got clients who have been born from a religious background and they're in that Christian space, and it's very similar. The structures that we work through and the structures that we teach are very in the sense of the core principle of finding that power within yourself, those kind of things as well. I think then we just get conditioned to
We
try,
can
and it
talk
has to
about,
be this way.
but that's exactly it. There's actually parts in the Bible, and if I look in my own family, there are a couple of people who are truly spiritual within the Christian faith, who are true believers, and they're happy and they're silent and they just do their thing. You want to be part of it, great. If not, not. It's just not invasive. And it's not like preaching or, trying to point out and things
Yeah,
like that. They just found God and they're so happy. And, if
yeah,
you want to join in, you're more than welcome. And at the other side, the ones who constantly justify and explain,
yeah,
pointing out it's written here and that's written there, and this is the line, and this is the people who do a lot of
yeah.
harm, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's relevant across every space. Any like topic that we'd speak into, we're going to see the same things. And I guess to wrap it back around into the marketing space, it's actually one of the biggest shifts that you can make for a lot of people, especially in the conscious and wellness and spiritual space, have a belief that they have to be of service. They want to be of service to people. And so for me, and linking it back into the religious aspect, like Jesus was of service. He just went around and freely served and just didn't have to get anything in return. If he got a loaf of bread or he got kindness, that was enough. Now, for the vast majority of people that listen to this podcast, and 99% of people on the planet, that's not how they want to live their life. And so to be of service is very different to being a service. So from a marketing point of view, if you're just trying to be of service to people, what are you telling the universe? That I just want to help freely without any expectation of return. So what do you attract? You attract people that just need you to help freely. But I have a lot of people come to me and go, I just keep attracting people that have no money. I'm like, okay, well, how are you putting that energy out there? Are you trying to be of service? Or are you actually defining yourself as a service which naturally has a value attached to it? So that's a massive shift for people to make.
Look, this is how we should have started this podcast. It might have been a killer. This is the stuff we should have at the beginning of this podcast. People would be hooked into listening, and you're immediately giving the best advice at the end. 50
Well, I
minutes
just
you must go through crocodile Dundee information until we're bringing the good stuff.
just making sure people are going to earn it, right? Making sure they get that value exchange. Because that's what it all comes back down to, right? It's seeing yourself as a value and seeing that your life force is the greatest asset. And how do you exchange that? How do you make sure that you get a valuable and equitable exchange for your life force? As soon as you switch to that, rather than just seeing yourself as a coach or seeing yourself as whatever, that you're an asset, you are a currency, you are valuable, your life force is your greatest asset. And for you to give that to people, there should be an equal and equitable exchange. Now, that doesn't always have to be financial. It is just an energy exchange. And that's what I think people need to understand, is that you can exchange time, you can exchange other things, but make sure that there is an exchange. Otherwise, that balance goes out of whack.
Honestly, this is one of the most important information. And I think 99% of all therapists, healers need to resit and revisit those last three sentences you said, because I see so clearly now in front of all the conversations I'm having 7 meet and greets more today. So, and it's every day. So I talk to a lot of therapists. And the thing that you said right now between, being off service and being a service, I think is the core misalignment with basically almost everybody in the healing world, because there is a conflict of interest. And if that is not clearly addressed within oneself, I'm 100% with you. This is the core problem.
Yeah, 100%, mate. If you can't see yourself as a valuable asset, how can someone else see it? We see ourselves first, right? We show up in the way in which we see ourselves. And so this is one of the biggest shifts that if people make has immediate impact in their business. I see people make this shift on a call and the next day they sign 3 clients, and not just clients at low level, they're bringing in 20, 30, $40,000 in a day from making this one shift. And then all of a sudden they show up differently in their social media. Then all of a sudden their clients that they want to work with start to come into their life. It all stems from this shift and this perception and mindset change.
Dear viewers, if you managed to listen 50 minutes, us babbling about everything, there you go.
There you go. There's the gold. There's the gold. You made it. Well done. I did it intentionally. No, I didn't. But well done. You got the gold at the end.
We do have. It is such a great conversation. I could go on forever.
Mm.
So just last thing, I'm so sorry. I'm always ruining the podcast in the end. We talk about Celtic traditional stuffs like that. I have to ask you, do you also look into the Aborigines and the things around you? Or
Yep.
is
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, any energy that you use in any land, you should have an understanding of the indigenous culture and the indigenous aspect. So I don't have I'm not fluent in it. I have people that I've spoken to about it, and I'm very mindful. And I believe that as long as my intention is pure and my intention is clear, then that's sweet. If I open myself up to that, introduce myself into that space, then that's okay, and that I'll be protected and I'll be looked after. But I think it's just important wherever you're going and whatever you're doing to understand that there's energy within the land. And at the end of the day, from a cultural point of view, none of us own any of the land. And so we're all able to have a connection to that energetically, and we're all able to give and receive energy to and from the land. And I think that's what's important, is that we respect that. And regardless of wherever we are in the world, no one has a signed contract from nature to say that they own a piece of land. So I think if we can be mindful of that and just hold that energy and be respectful, then everything works out pretty sweet.
I'm so happy to hear that, because it's so important for me to meet a person that no matter what your spiritual paths and guides is, one has to be respectful of the surrounding, and one must recognize the surrounding, and one cannot be into every cult and tradition. But if you don't start from your surrounding to recognize it and to see it, then I'm always wondering how truly spiritual a person is. So that's and it's easier for so many of us that we live close to a huge spiritual tradition, and it's sometimes easier for us to look to the Buddha or the sun that's super far away. It helps us somehow sometimes to have a non-indigenous tradition as a beginning of a journey. But if one, as you, has such a background, you look everywhere, you look all around, and you appreciate everything. I think that's an important information, so that also everybody feels home and welcome with you. Well, no matter where they come, if they come to you as a client, if they come for you to advise, you seem to have the openness and the heart to take everything in and everyone in. And I think this was a very good last message. I'll put all the links and information, everything you want to share, down on YouTube video. And whoever's still with us, you're now dancing around because you found the gold nugget, and you should be, because play it back, list 3-4 times the last 10 minutes. And if you get that right, you're already on a good path to 20K a day. So we are on the way. Luke, if there's anything
Absolutely.
else you want to share, or what you think we've covered
No,
most
I
of it.
think we've covered a lot. Thanks to everyone who's listened. Thanks for having me on, mate. I'm looking forward to doing this again sometime in the future and bringing more gold and seeing where the conversation flows again. Big love to you. Big love to your families. And yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much, Luke. Have a wonderful day in Australia.
Thank you, man.